And so you would say that that's kind of a general ethos of the ulama, because we hear in circles often, especially nowadays today when there's a lot of political upheaval, and of course everyone is affected by Gaza and Palestine and other places in the world, and that somehow the Sufis represent this type of quietist or passive stance when it comes to things like this. Either they're uninterested, or they're even worse, they could be working in tandem with political powers that want to quiet the situation. So, maybe, what can you tell us about people who say things like this, and how the ulama actually work?
Well, this is a regular slander that has been spread by anti-spiritual people for centuries now, because you see, the Sufis, they have this very clear uh, rule, very clear. Any internal fitna, they keep away from it. They keep it stateside. They will not get involved into a fitna amongst Muslims. But whenever there is an attack from the outside, then they all take the people and go out and fight. Like, for instance, people don't think about Sayyid Ahmad Badawi, for instance, as a fighter, but he took his people, his muridin, and he went out to fight the Crusaders in Egypt when the Crusader landed in Dumyat. So, that was a normal decision. If you look at who was doing the fighting in Algeria, it was Sayyid Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, the Qadiri Sheikh. In Libya, it was the Sanusis and Sheikh Omar Mukhtar, who was a Sanufi Muqaddam, which in fact was not mentioned in the movie. The movie was brilliant in everywhere, except they did not say he was a Sufi, and they did the Hadra before they went out. They did the Hadra every morning after Salat al-Fajr before they went out to fight the Italians. In West Africa, it was the same. In Ethiopia, it was the same. You have in the Caucasian area, you have Sheikh Shamil. They're everywhere. These people, as soon as there is a clear external enemy attacking the Ummah, they're out there with their swords. But inside the Muslim communities, they never shared in the fitna, which are the direct instructions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, stay out of the fitna. Now, the people who accuse them of this, quietism and things like this, they are the same people who went out and did the jama'at. They became the Muslim Brothers, they became the ISIS, they became this and that, because they thought that they could reinterpret the instructions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam according to their view of the current history, which unfortunately is a completely westernized view. It has nothing of the prophetic wisdom in it. It's lost the whole thing. It's gone. They cannot understand the first thing of what the Prophet was talking about. The Prophet was the most thing that he found abhorrent, the most thing he hated was fitna. This was so hateful to him. He kept repeating, no fitna. And they told him, what if the ruler is unjust? He said, no fitna. They said, he takes our money, no fitna. وَإِنْ أَخَذَ مَالَكَ وَضَرَبَ ظَهْرَكَ. He said, you stay quiet. Don't increase the fitna, because he knew very well that this kind of behavior will not eradicate, but it will increase the fitna. And people will suffer more, and the innocents will suffer more. So he told them, not be practical, be realistic. You cannot eradicate the fitna in this manner. You just sit down and shut up and don't increase the fitna, and make sure that you comfort people around you and teach them how to be patient. That is the real Sufi attitude.
Jazakallah khair. I'll have one last question for you, then we'll open up for the hudur to ask some questions. So my last question to you, and it's a little bit theoretical, but if Habib was with us today, and he is with us obviously in another way, but if you were the voice for him, what do you think, what advice would he give us regarding our situation, the Ummah in general today?
Al-Habib never had any sort of large-scale plans for the Ummah. his view, like the view of most of the ulama and most of the awliya that over the centuries, was that you can do nothing except work with individuals. The more good individuals you produce, the more your good influence will spread. So you concentrate first on your family, then your relatives and neighbors, and then anybody else you can benefit with the analogy of the Prophet ﷺ, and then really concentrate and produce good people, because that is the only way that the Ummah will survive. If you know very well that the Ummah will disappear on the day when the last man, the last wali will disappear. When we run out of awliya, there will be no Ummah khalas. That's the end of it. So the more we produce good people, people of Allah, people whose da'wah is mustajaba, people who have the prophetic wisdom, not bits and bits of details, but they know the wisdom, the rules. These are the people who are capable of contributing to the survival of the Ummah. So that is not an obvious thing that people see. You know, people would see a violent movement, a violent revolution, a violent overthrow of government, a violent. That is obvious for all to see. But the day-to-day, the real nitty-gritty thing, the big effort to produce good people, and at the end you get results that are not proportionate to your effort, obviously, but at least you have somebody to transmit the wisdom of the Prophet to the next generations, then you've succeeded there. He had no large-scale plans for the Ummah because he knew that we're at the end of time. You know, there's no way of, for instance, restoring the Khilafah or uniting the whole Ummah again. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So what can you do on a practical level, on a realistic level? You can influence the environment around you. Now, with all these media and things, you can also influence. But in fact, if you look at things, it's a face-to-face education and disciplining that produces men. It's not, video talks. That doesn't produce a lot of good. That gives you some information about things, which is okay. Fills in gaps, which is okay. But when you come to the production of real Muslim men, then you have to have a real contact with the Wali of Allah, who is going to set you straight, put you on the straight path, and keep you there. So that was what really Habib was interested in. And that doesn't change over time. His shuyukh had the same interest. The shuyukh of his shuyukh had the same interest. His disciples who are living now have the same interest. It doesn't change.
Yeah. MashaAllah. Barakallahu feekum. Are we going to do written or? Okay. So people are writing now?
Yeah. If you want to know.
Yeah. They can write their questions.
Just ask speakers. Everybody moves on. Raise your hands and you put your any questions? Any questions?
If it's not that many, then we can just take them orally. Who has a question here right now? Raise your hand. Huh? I think we'll take them orally since there's not that thing. Yeah. Fadl, ask your question now.
What can Dr. Mostafa
Raise your voice.
Yeah, so the question is, what can you tell us about the kind of final days of Habib's life, which was the later stages of his life? What did he kind of do in those stages, and how did he prepare for his passing?
Did you hear the question, Sidi? He's asking the later stages of Habib's life and how he was preparing for the next stage and passing into the next life. What did he do?
Well, he started preparing when he was 5. That's true. The last days he was he was in states, and he had spiritual states like these people have when they're near the end of their lives, and the lights become so powerful that sometimes they cut them off from us. And he was ill. He was very poorly. He had many illnesses, and he had lost most of his eyesight. So that was, but he still had the same routine. He would come down and sit with the students, and they would read books, and he'd serve them coffee and dates and sweets, and then lunchtime there was lunch, and then another session after Asr and so on. And he would attend the Mawlids and attend everything. So he didn't change anything, but at a slower pace because he was so poorly near the end. But he didn't change really anything. He was one of his teachers. They told him that was the time when they first invented the watches and brought them into Hadramaut, which was a long time after it appeared in Europe, obviously. And they gave the Shaykh a watch with a chain, and showed him how to wind it up. And then after a few days, they found that the watch has stopped because he never bothered to wind it up. They thought, yeah, Habib, why not? And it will stop. It will not work. He says, I have no time. My time is so well organized. It's so well organized that if they told me you're going to die in half an hour, there was nothing I can do to increase what I'm already doing. That's the pattern of their lives. They live this, and you can see this on the younger people and the younger Alawi people. You see them occupied 24 hours. They don't leave any time for anything. So they're preparing. They were prepared years and years before the time comes.
Anyone else have a question? No.
Is it a good idea for us to rely on the perception of the Shaykh? You mentioned earlier that you can tell if someone is a wali by sitting with them and seeing how they live life and how you feel peaceful around them. When I personally see people feel that towards someone who my own Shaykh deemed as someone who is false. So how can we leave this up to each individual's judgment? But the feeling they get around a person specific, could it not be false?
Okay. She's asking, we talked about earlier about one's kind of perception, feeling a sense of peace and so forth, or spiritual power of a Shaykh when they're in their presence. Let's say that someone else feels that way about another person, and your own Shaykh doesn't think that that person really should be a Shaykh and should be followed. What does one do in this particular situation?
To follow one's own Shaykh, obviously. There's no another alternative. If he's your Shaykh, he's your Shaykh. Khalas, whatever he says goes.
Exactly.
You have to overrule your own rational mind at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khairan.
جزانا وإياكم بارك الله فيكم